to real estate agents. Also, what Americans think about whether it's time to buy a home today or not. And last but not least, the best markets for real estate investments in 2019, according to Forbes. But before we get to that, Edward's going to introduce our special guest.
Special guest today is real estate developer John Protopappas, who owns a lot in Oakland specifically. And his specialty is live-work units. Now, John, you and I have known each other for a number of years. How did you get involved in the live-work units, and what makes them different than apartments?
Well, great to be with both of you here today. Thank you for inviting me. The difference really, when I started the company in 1983, there were a lot of old warehouses in Oakland that were in need of investment and development.
And were they abandoned or?
Well, let's say they were underutilized.
Underutilized, okay.
Okay, many of those old warehouses, distribution spaces, were underutilized, and
this is before Amazon.
This was before, yes, definitely before Amazon. So, a lot of these old spaces, you can convert those old spaces into loft-style live-work units, and you can give folks a lot of square footage for a very low price. In fact, for the same amount of money that you're renting an apartment near Lake Merritt, you could rent, a 1,500, 2,000 square foot loft in an old warehouse space. So that's kind of how I started.
And some of those lofts, you see them advertised. Some of them look really nice. It's not like
the newer ones.
Yeah, exactly. Not this bohemian lifestyle. Everybody wearing Birkenstocks and holes through the roof.
Well, sometimes you see on TV, like if the show is being filmed in New York, for example, you see a lot of those tall ceilings. It looks really rustic and bricky and pipes and stuff, but it's it's open, but open and airy. And is that what you're talking about for Oakland, or is it something?
Yeah, even the movie. In fact, the movie Ghost, I think, was like that.
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember about that, where they move into basically this loft, and the huge windows and all that. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what attracts a lot of individuals to those types of spaces, is the creativity. It's not, apartments are great, but if you can have 14, 16, 18-foot high ceilings, if you can have a loft, if you can have brick and timber, some great old features and characteristics of old factories and warehouses, it's a lot of fun.
And being able to see the ducting, like some restaurants do that. They purposely open up the ceiling so you can see the ductwork.
And the other thing with those old buildings is you've got huge windows, great light, very airy, open. So a lot of folks are attracted.
Is the insulation, though, a problem?
Well, when you're renovating, you have to bring everything up to code. So you have to install, current insulation.
Gotcha.
Insulation, bring it up to code. So
sprinklers, all that. Yeah.
Fire sprinklers, alarms. New electrical, new plumbing.
So is this the growth market as you see it for Alameda County?
Well, I'm happy to say that a city like Oakland, Oakland started. They approved a live-work ordinance in 1983. That was the first one, and then subsequent ones many years since then. So in a city like Oakland, many of these old warehouses have already been renovated. I think it's a growth industry for many other cities all across the United States.
Sure. Again, where can you get that much space? And if you can make it look, almost apartment-like. And then where does rent control come in with live-work units?
Well, in cities like Oakland or San Francisco, if you renovate a building in Oakland, if it's post-1983, it's not subject to rent control because of Costa-Hawkins, the state act that was passed, which does not allow rent control on brand new apartments. So in our situation, all the buildings we've renovated since I started the company are not subject to rent control.
So is it that you renovate a certain percentage above X and it becomes classified as a new rental property versus an existing rental?
Yes, it's basically when you place the building into service. So if you place the new units into service, and you renovate a warehouse today and you bring it and place it into service, it's brand new. It's just as if it's a brand new apartment.
It's interesting because a lot of people don't really think in terms of the rent control. One of the big issues is, if you hamper the landlord from being able to raise the rent, I mean, unfortunately, the landlord is not allowed to go to PG&E or the insurance company and say, "Hey, rent control, you can't raise my PG&E."
Right.
And so, you don't want landlords turning into slum landlords. You want them to be able to make a fair profit. And a lot of people don't look at it that way. They just look at, all landlords are rich, and they're all
We
taking
all wear
advantage of
black
us.
hats. And
Yeah,
we're all, like,
exactly.
twirling our
Twirling
mustaches.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and I think one of the things that we see, the average rent in our apartment buildings is, probably now $2,800 a month. So these are units where the customer, the resident, wants service.
Yeah.
And we want to provide the service. That's our job, is to provide a good service for a great product.
Very good. Okay, guys, we're going to cut to our first commercial break. We're talking entertainment here. And John, if you know the answer, don't answer yet. We'll let you answer when you come back. First trivia question. What was Elle's name, E-L-L-E-S, last name in the movie Legally Blonde? Remember, her first name was Elle. What was her last name in the movie? All right. Call 888-912-1190. If you're the first caller with the correct answer, you're going to win that tanning certificate. Again, what was the last name for Elle in the movie Legally Blonde? Don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing. We're going to be right back.
How did you know that was my favorite movie?
Do you like that? I like that movie. I do.
I actually
like
liked it,
I
and it's
do.
funny. Probably like within the last 6 months, I was just channel surfing one odd weekend, and it came on. I just watched the end of it. It was funny.
I don't remember the name. The answer to your trivia question.
And what's the actress again? What's her name?
Reese Witherspoon.
Reese Witherspoon,
Reese.
and they're making a third one right now.
A third one?
Yeah.
Number 2 wasn't quite.
No, number 2 is terrible. The first one was really clever, and then they decided to, jump on the bandwagon of not remakes, but sequels.
Sequels, yeah. It goes pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, you guys
Well, the
obviously
7
know
minutes
what you're doing
definitely,
here,
yeah,
so it's
yeah.
great.
Although the next 3, we got a little over 8 minutes. But what can we talk about that would be, ear perking for someone listening from an investment standpoint?
So
what can we talk
I
about?
think one of the interesting things is that here we've been in a Bay Area market. Everyone wonders, why is the price of real estate so high here? And the primary reason, obviously, is we have demand, but we don't produce enough product to fulfill
Perfect.
demand.
And that's
And we
exactly
can go
what
on and on and
Yeah.
on.
Okay.
And also, before you got here, we were talking about the ghost ship fires.
Yeah.
And how, you can't just blame the landlord. I mean, people obviously are blaming the actual participants, but
Yeah.
they're always, picking on the landlord. It's like, the idea of I'd like to give, we like stories and stuff. Like, so if you want to, without the name or the location, just say, we had this one tenant who would never let us in, that sort of
We
thing.
got a lot of stories like that.
Okay, good.
So I'll ask you a question. Explain to us why live-work units are an important
Okay.
opportunity
Okay.
in the real estate market.
We'll answer our question. I got a couple of quick mentions here for things,
Okay.
and then
Fire away.
okay. All right, let's see here. Yeah, we have 2 of them here. Okay, here we go. Well, welcome back to the Best of Investing. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hoff, president of Pacific Private Money. First trivia question was, what was Elle's last name in the movie Legally Blonde?
The only last name of an L I know is McPherson.
No. That's right. Reese Witherspoon was the real name, but in the movie, what was Elle Woods?
Oh, that's
Woods.
right.
Remember that? Okay.
Elle Woods.
All right. Before we continue on here, I want to make a quick mention for Alcatraz Cruises. So they're launching their 2nd annual buy one get one free. Alcatraz Island, one of the country's most visited national parks. Check them out. AlcatrazCruises.com. 415-981-7625. You guys have been to Alcatraz, haven't you?
I have never been.
You've
to
never
Alcatraz.
been there?
I've lived in the Bay Area for 48
Oh, man,
years.
you got to check it. They are. It's amazing. It's. I got to say, especially when they used to put you in solitary confinement to see what it's like, but I think one time it got stuck, so they had. No, we're not doing that anymore.
All
right. You want to ask
I have
our
a question for John. Yeah, so we're talking about live-work units, and John, we were talking a little bit off the air, but I wanted you to share with the audience, why are live-work units an important aspect in the real estate market today?
Well, one of the great opportunities we have living in urban America is that there's the urban fabric in almost every community now is one where it's a village.
Yeah.
And, who wants to commute for hours and hours and hours to go from your home to your work? So in many instances, we can create communities where people live and work in the same building.
How often are people actually nowadays, though, working in their live work versus just living there?
Well, Edward, you'd be very surprised. There are quite a few.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I am surprised.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that was like the original intent.
Is it
but then
because of the
changed.
percentage of self-employed and
home
people
office,
who
like
can
that.
work from home within the Bay Area rather than commute into the office?
Yes. I mean, I think changing jobs, changing patterns of work have allowed individuals to be able to work from their homes, and we no longer have this as we used to. Maybe our parents, where you would go to a company, you stay with that company forever.
Yeah.
Now it's a very creative economy, so we see many folks in our communities that both live and work in the same unit.
And one interesting thing about that is, it's one thing if you have like a 1-bedroom studio that's 500 square feet. That would drive me bananas living and working in that all the time. But if you can afford a live work unit that's large space, you have room to kind of spread around a little bit.
That's exactly right. So often you'll see units that are several thousand square feet, or 1,500 square feet, or 2,000 square feet, where you can divide the work and the live component. And many cities have codes now where they actually require a certain amount of living square footage as well as work square footage in the units.
Okay, so when nowadays, because of what happened a couple of years ago now, the ghost ship fire, and people know that it was in a live work building, and it was not owned by you, but people have this idea about the bad landlord, because obviously the participants who caused the fire, the electrical thing, and they did all this bad stuff, but a lot of people put blame on the landlord. How come the landlord didn't do anything? So come at it from that perspective.
Sure. One of the challenges as a landlord, when you have a building such as the one where that horrific incident occurred, the Ghost Ship fire, where there were so many deaths, there's a lot of creativity that occurs in many of these spaces. So it's very hard to police the improvements that take place. And even though, like in our case, we have leases where the leases are very prohibitive of what can be done to the spaces, often people will go in and they'll make significant improvements. And that is a big challenge when you have large living spaces.
Yeah.
So if you have a 1,000 square foot space, a 1,500 square foot space, it's really hard to make significant improvements that are going to affect code. But if you have 2, 3, 4, 5,000 square foot spaces, often you can create things that are very problematic.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that where if you have a small apartment, a small studio, I mean, you're not going to be putting a nuclear power plant in, so there's only so much you can do, and that's what.
Or
you're
not going to be putting in bedrooms without windows.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Right, because the bedrooms already have windows, or the unit already has a lot of window space exiting, and there are code requirements that we all have to abide by.
So John, savvy real estate investors identify a niche and pursue it, and it looks like this is what you're doing with the live work area. You're obviously very bullish on it. So, and I understand the idea of repurposing underutilized warehouse space and converting it into residential units. How big is the opportunity to do that? And obviously you specialize in Oakland, but how big is the opportunity in Oakland and maybe even throughout the Bay Area for other investors to maybe take a look at that investment strategy?
I would say the opportunity is huge nationwide, because you have communities, and I'll give you an example. We've been fortunate here in California because we're in a growing market. People keep coming because of tech jobs, because of growth of our economy, the weather. But you go to cities like even Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, cities that have Detroit, cities that have lost population, yet they have these magnificent old structures.
Gotcha.
And a lot of these structures, like a city like Pittsburgh, we looked at Pittsburgh closely just recently. It used to be 1.2 million people in Pittsburgh in 1950. Today, it's about 620,000
Really?
people.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so the 4 cities that I mentioned, they've all lost significant population since the 50s and the 60s.
I mean, I understand Detroit, with all the car stuff, but Pittsburgh, that surprised me.
Steel.
Oh, steel industry. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So now, with the rebirth of cities, you have a lot. You not only have a lot of younger folks that want to live in cities, but you've got a lot of people like me, in their 50s and 60s that want to move back to and experience the urban lifestyle.
Interesting.
So what we see and what we're doing with a lot of our units is, maybe 20 years ago, we had, the average unit may have been 1,000 square feet. Well, now our average unit for loft space is about 1,500 square feet.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Because when I want to move into a space now, I need space.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
All right, guys, boy, the second segment went quickly here. On the TV show Cheers, what was Sam Malone's nickname on the TV show Cheers? He had a nickname, right? It had to do with his baseball career. Remember, he was a baseball player?
Oh, that's right.
Okay. Call 888-912-1190. Be the first caller with the correct answer. You're going to win that tanning certificate. Again, what was Sam Malone's nickname? Was played by Ted Danson, right?
Yes.
All right, okay. What was his nickname on the TV show Cheers? Call 888-912-1190. Don't touch that dial. The best of investing. Going to be right back. All right. How easy, I guess I was going to ask this question, we didn't have enough time. How easy is it working with cities to turn units into live work?
It's impossible.
That's
They don't like it. They're not really bullish about it. Going, hey, that's a great use of that old empty building that's been sitting there for 10 years.
So the challenge, what the cities, what they prefer is you build a brand new building because it's easy for them. It's easy for their planners. It's easy for their plan checkers. When you take an old structure that was built with old codes and you want to marry it with the new code, it's very challenging.
I think that we should mention that on there because that's kind of interesting stuff.
But that is where it's a great investment opportunity.
Oh, okay.
Because when you learn how to do that, there's significant value that you can achieve. You actually end up, I believe, with a better product than a conventional apartment. So any community, I mean, downtown San Rafael, there's some cool buildings down here, right? Above the first floor, you don't get that much for office. I mean, I don't know what here. This is new.
Yeah.
But the older buildings, 1920s buildings.
Yeah.
All right. What do you get for office space there?
Oh, $2.50 a foot.
Okay.
$2 a foot.
All right, not bad. But for multi-unit, you're going to get probably $4 to $5. A foot. So that's a significant appreciation.
Okay, so let's get into just quickly, how easy it is. You can explain how difficult it is, and then we'll move on.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, I got one other.
Do you want to pose the question to him? Or do you want me to?
Why don't you pose it? Okay, ready? Here we go. Well, welcome back to the Best of Investing. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money. Second trivia question on entertainment is the theme. What was Sam Malone's nickname on the TV show Cheers?
Slugger?
Slugger, no. Mayday. Mayday.
Mayday Malone.
Mayday Malone. That's right.
Mayday Malone.
Mayday Malone. Mark, you want to ask John? You want to ask John Protopappas from Madison Park a question about live work.
So we've been talking so far in the Best of Investing about investing in live work units, what kind of investment they are, and during the commercial break, John, we were talking about how it is to work with the city planners, and we thought maybe they would love you to come in there and repurpose an old building, but you said otherwise.
Well, it's very difficult for city planners, city plan checkers, engineers to work with adaptively reusing older structures. They much prefer you building a brand new building.
Tear it down and build new.
It's easier.
But that's not where the opportunity is, right?
That's right. That's right. There's great opportunity in reusing old structures. For one thing, if it's a historic structure, you can actually certify it with the National Park Service and get federal tax credits.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a huge benefit.
There's 50-year ones and 100-year ones, I think, aren't there?
Well, the building, all it has to be is 50 years old,
okay.
But you do have to qualify the buildings with the National Park Service. So you have to obtain approvals.
But there's only so much you can do with that building too if you certified it, isn't it?
There is, but
Okay.
it's it's not that difficult.
Not that difficult.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've done it many,
Okay.
many times, and once you learn the process, it's actually pretty easy.
Okay.
So aside from working with the various cities, depending on their level of expertise or not, the opportunity for return on investment is huge, repurposing existing buildings. Is that correct?
It is, because you can purchase an existing structure, you can renovate it, and if you are renting it out as an apartment building and retail down below, you're going to end up with a building that is worth a lot more than your cost in the building.
Interesting. And before we move on to Mark here, if people had questions about live work units, could they call you?
They certainly can.
Okay. How would they get a hold of you?
They would get a hold of me at Madison Park in Oakland at 510-452-2944.
Great. Okay. Well, stick around. We're going to move on to Mark here. Mark, you have an interesting article there.
I've got four interesting articles.
More interesting articles.
We'll see if I can power through them
Okay.
through the rest of this segment, and we'll continue on with some more interesting tidbits through the rest of the show today. But my favorite economist, Chris Thornburg, founder of Beacon Economics, and they're based right here in California. And again, we're a California-based show. Both you and I have been lived and worked and invested in California our whole lives. California's fifth largest economy in the world. So really, there's the challenge with a lot of news that's coming out nowadays is that it's nationwide in scope. And so, but when Chris speaks up, he's one of the guys that called the crisis before it happened in 2007. And he told people to get out of real estate in 2007, was largely ridiculed for that. So he's a guy that I listen to. In fact, he's speaking next month at the California Mortgage Association event that I'm going to attend. But he just came out with his January monthly newsletter. And he says, trade disputes, slowing housing markets, Wall Street turbulence, political uncertainty, ... Despite all of it, economic outlook remains steady.
Huh.
And so I've always appreciated his level-headedness at looking at this, because he saw the writing on the wall when everything turned south very quick in 2007 and 8. And he's a guy that like all good economists, they read the graphs, they study charts, they're looking at trends.
Is he saying that it's okay basically because employment is so low?
Well, let me share with you a few tidbits. The fact that the U.S. economy is on the edge of the longest economic expansion in the nation's history hasn't dampened Chris Thornburg's latest forecast, despite hand-wringing over everything ranging from battles with U.S. trading partners to feared onset of inflation. His outlook continues to be that California economies and the U.S. economy, for that matter, will continue to expand through 2020. And he says, look, this isn't just raw optimism. This is there's just simply nothing out there at the moment, in his opinion, whether it's the sell-off of the stock market or rising interest rates, that has the power or speed to knock the expansion off its track.
Huh.
And apart from a rapidly growing federal budget deficit, which is no small thing, of course, the U.S. economy looks fairly well balanced in terms of the fundamentals. At the state level, California's economy, he forecasts it to continue growing through 2020. His biggest concern really is with the labor force, the cost of housing, and getting labor force. Is we're not building enough housing and enough affordable housing to grow the labor market sufficient to sustain California's potential for expansion, for continued expansion. We've got a lot of companies that are starting up every day in California, in the Silicon Valley and in San Francisco and
not that
California.
Many that are leaving.
Well, some are leaving too, yeah. But again, the net expansion in California is still on the plus side, and really the biggest hurdle to continued growth in California is the housing market. So stay tuned. But again, I think that's good news, and that's good news because according to the polls, more Americans, according to this article, think it's a bad time to buy a home today. And so that's the headline. And, we like to sometimes ridicule on the show the headlines. It says more Americans think it's a bad time to buy a home. Well, yeah.
Based on interest rates going up, based on the prices being too high and starting to flatten.
So this article I pulled out this week. The share of Americans who think it's a good time to buy a home has dropped sharply, according to a survey from the mortgage giant Fannie Mae. higher mortgage rates and increased home prices are to blame.
There you go.
Homes are simply very expensive right now in relation to income. But again, you have to be careful about polls and consumer polls. And I don't know about you guys, but I tend not to follow what the polls are saying. Usually it's like whatever the public believes, run the opposite direction or invest in the opposite. Yeah. So that's article number 2. The next article I wanted to share with you guys is a new study from the nation's leading real estate agent advocacy group shows how the partial federal shutdown is curbing economic activity relative to real estate. So this is the National Association of Realtors. They polled 2,200 of their members. Now, notably, 75%, there's been zero impact on my business from the government shutdown. But interestingly enough, 25% said that their business has been impacted. And here are the ways that the government shutdown has been impacting real estate activity. And it's mostly on the mortgage side.
So government employees maybe not getting mortgages.
So 10% of agents said they were impacted because a federal employee opted not to follow through on a home purchase. 25% said the buyer decided not to buy the house because of government uncertainty. So I guess
that's why we don't deal with government employees.
The rest, delays due to IRS income verification and other delays on FHA and other government-backed loans. So again, you might think it's had no impact. So it's had a little bit of impact, but I would say marginal at best. Yeah. I'll save the last article for the next segment.
All right. Here's our third trivia question. What actor played Dr. Frankenstein in the 1974 film Young Frankenstein? You guys should remember that movie, right? Call 888-912-1190. Be the first caller with the correct answer. You're going to win that tanning certificate. Don't touch that dial. The best of investing is going to be right back. All right.
Peter Boyle.
That's right.
Who?
I couldn't remember his name. Peter Boyle.
Yeah. Which actor played Dr. Frankenstein? Peter Boyle played
Frankenstein. No. You're right. You're right. It was Gene Wilder.
Gene Wilder. Yeah, Peter Boyle played Frankenstein. That was a great casting.
Oh my God!
What was he in before?
He was in Everybody Loves Raymond. He was in a Taxi with Robert De Niro. Yeah.
Right.
That's a weird movie.
Yeah, I've not rewatched that in a while. So this is our longest segment coming up by it's 8:48. So we can. Do you want to do a? Email?
So the email I have is, would you lend on someone's house for a business venture? So basically it's, people who, a lot of people think, oh, you won't give me money on my house because I'm going to use it for business. It's not a home. Well, you don't care as long as you got enough equity in there. And they'll give you a segment to, as to what you do for a living. I have to make my other mentions here too, so I'm going to do that real fast. Really fast. Okay. That was our third segment. Okay, ready? Here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing one more time. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hoff, president of Pacific Private Money. Third trivia question. What actor played Dr. Frankenstein in the 1974 film Young Frankenstein? Mark?
Gene Wilder.
Gene Wilder, that is correct. Okay, I want to make a couple of mentions here. Sonoma Canopy Tours is a world-class zip line tour through the Redwood Forest. I don't know if you guys have ever been there. It's in Occidental. And you're talking about, like, these trees are like 200 feet. You want the thrill and scare of your life? Check out Sonoma Canopy Tours. You can also get one of those film things on your head.
So you can watch the
GoPro type things, yes. So come fly with them. Reserve your spot today at SonomaCanopyTours.com. You can also call 888-494-7868. Also want to make one other quick mention here. We Care Exterminators. They're all over the Bay Area. These guys are not only reasonably priced, but they're very honest and very, very friendly. I've used them before. They are phenomenal. So check them out, 707-703-1278, whether you got rats or mosquitoes or whatever else it's got. They do a very good job. WeCarePest.com. Okay, Mark, an email comes in for you, and then you can explain, what do you do for a living? Would you lend on someone's house for a business venture?
Well, the answer is yes, absolutely, and we do it all the time. And so at Pacific Private Money, we're an alternative real estate finance provider for situations where the bank says no, or when banks financing is just simply not an option, which means they said no. And as we all know, since 2008, the banks have said no with increasing frequency, as opposed to anyone who could fog a mirror. Seemingly, your stylist, your taxi driver, your the guy next door. Everyone was buying real estate left and right in 2004, 5, 6, and 7, just based on their FICO score and a lot of lies on a loan application. You can't really do that anymore. And in fact, the pendulum swung so far in the other direction that even getting a HELOC on your home in a junior lien behind your first mortgage, it's just gotten extremely difficult these days. And it's funny, I'm actually going through a home loan refi myself right now with a major bank, and I just knew this was going to be painful. And when I met this loan agent, she said, well, I'm the #1 producer for jumbo loans for this bank, and I happen to bank with them. So I thought, well, I might as well give them, throw in a bone. But I said in advance, I said, I don't want to go through the process that I went through with this other mortgage agent a couple of years ago, and explained to her how painful it was and how downright humiliating it was for someone who makes the money I make in a business that's successful and thriving, and I pay my taxes and I report all my income and I have reserves and yada, yada, yada. And still I couldn't I still gave up on the last time 2 years ago to refinance my home. So here we are 4 months into it. I mean, 4 weeks into it, 4 weeks, and it's already starting to look like it's going to be more of the same. Yeah. So anyway, but getting a loan on your home for a business purpose is actually quite common. People, you have a home with equity, you got a first mortgage on it, you want to borrow, $1, $2, $3, $4, $500,000 for a business venture or to buy business inventory. I mean, there's all kinds of, or maybe you want to buy fix and flip real estate, even though many in the market are saying, oh, there's no money to be made in flipping in California today, which is completely untrue. But you got to be just more careful about it. But we get those loan requests in every day. And in fact, when I left the office earlier, I overheard a conversation that one of my loan agents were having with someone who was trying to use their home equity to borrow money to make an investment. And so that is something that not all private lenders or hard money lenders will do. Some people some companies are reticent to lend on an owner-occupied dwelling, even though it's for a business purpose. And the reason is because the laws have changed substantially in the last 10 years to really give the power to the borrower. Yeah, and in some lenders feel that there's too much in the homeowner's hands, that you make them a loan that they asked for, they want it, needed it, and or benefit from it, but because it's secured by their primary residence, they still have the opportunity to basically say, throw up a bunch of defenses that, you knew I couldn't afford this loan, and you knew, this really wasn't for business purposes. I used it to pay off credit cards and college tuition, and you should have known better. In other words, you can always find an attorney who will go to bat for you.
It's interesting too, because regular banks, a lot of times they wouldn't want to make a loan if you're using it for business purposes. Yeah, that's one of the questions. What do you need the money for? And when they find out what you need,
that's true. And in fact, those of us in the private lending world, like Pacific Private Money, we really like it. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear you say it's for a business purpose. We don't want to hear you say it's for a consumer use. I'm consolidating debt, or I'm paying off a judgment lien, or I'm paying off student loans for my kids. The reason we don't like hearing that is because on a consumer purpose or a consumer use of money, there are different regulations that that loan falls under, and it requires us to do things like verify your ability to make the monthly payments, which we really do anyway. But they're even harsher constructs to making those types of loans.
Yeah.
And most private lenders will not make a loan to you on your primary residence unless it's for a business purpose. And even if it is for a business purpose, many of them won't do it. So,
well, I'm sure you just love to hear, what do you need the money for? Well, I need to hire an attorney to sue the last 3 mortgage brokers. A little bit of a red flag there.
yeah. So for more information about how you can leverage the equity in your home for a loan, give us a call at Pacific Private Money. We're at 415-883-2150, or the best way to connect with us is via our website. That's pacificprivatemoney.com.
And do you have a deal of the week?
I don't.
Well, you don't? Well, I do.
You
Last
me,
last week,
flat-footed.
That's okay. Last week,
I
we didn't have
knew
enough time to do this one. So there is a person in the Bay Area who is consolidating debt to pay an IRS lien that, or excuse me, it's not a lien yet, but owes the IRS, knows that it will turn into a lien. And again, he made a decent amount of money, but didn't have at the time the money to pay the IRS. It has good cash flow, and it's going to be a second mortgage. But excuse me, the combined loan to value is only 56%. So, you look at that and you say, okay, well, the person got in a little IRS issue, but there's so much equity in the property, and the person makes a lot of money that as soon as they pay the IRS, they should be good to go. So
that's something that a lot of hard money lender or alternative finance provider, that you're out there making high risk, high percentage loans, stripping the equity from someone's home or from a real estate. And in fact, usually the opposite is true. Most of the loans we do are at LTV exposure of 70% loan to today's market value or less. And your example of near almost 50% ish loan to value, that's very typical. And again, they're coming to companies like ours because they either can't get bank financing for a myriad of reasons, and it's not all the time that it's low credit score. Oftentimes they got great credit. They're self-employed. They can't verify income.
Or speed.
They just don't. It's just speed. They just don't want to go through a 6 or 8 week process of providing everything 4 times. And
I don't like the process you're going through.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
And again, I love my bankers. I really do. I don't want to bash banks. They send us a lot of good referrals. But again, if you need fast financing, PacificPrivateMoney.com.
All right, we're going to be back, and we're going to explain to people how you can invest with Mark's company and earn a very good rate of return. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Okay. That's why I leave extra time at the beginning, because when we go over, that's fine.
What else, John? Can we? Because in 5 minutes goes by really fast. So I want to just have.
Well, here's a question that a lot of people come up. Why is it to rent in the Bay Area when I can go rent for 50 or 60% in a city like Houston or in a city like Seattle? And it's a great question. The answer is that it's really simple. We make it too difficult to create housing.
Yeah.
Okay. It's too difficult.
I mean, how much different are our wages too? That's a part of it. But
that's part of it. But when you think about the fact that Seattle is producing 40, 50,000 apartments a year.
Is that right?
Wow. Sure.
And who wants to live in Seattle?
And it's beautiful. It rains, but here, we don't produce anywhere close to that.
Yeah.
And they've been doing it consistently. Go to Houston. Houston's been doing that consistently for a long time. Even, they didn't produce as many during the recession, but as we started coming out of the recession.
Well, the real estate taxes, though, it's weird. Our real estate taxes are high, but as a percentage, relatively speaking, they're low compared to Oregon. And that's a major factor when you start seeing these people paying $3,000 a year for $100,000 house. I mean, it really kind of hampers how much that's going to go up when they know that the percentage of it. It's kind of a big thing. Okay, so I'll
pose that as a question.
Okay.
Let me. It's. I want
to. Okay. Talk about the fun for a little bit.
Let's do the question first and then close out with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Well, welcome back to the Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn. And Mark, you want to ask John a question?
I did, and I know a lot of listeners, know the answer to this, but it bears repeating. There's always this conversation about why is housing so incredibly expensive in the San Francisco Bay Area, yet in other metro areas throughout the nation, it's a fraction of what renters here have to pay.
Mark, great question. I mean, when you look at the amount of units, the amount of supply that we create, we don't create enough supply. It's as simple as that.
But why do you think that is?
Well, we have a lot of demand, right? We have a lot of people that keep coming to the Bay Area, and we don't create supply because many of our cities, they make it very difficult for us to create supply. And not just the cities, but they are responding to a public that often doesn't want any change in their community.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so many people say, well, wait a minute. Yeah, sure, go ahead and produce that big apartment building, but I don't want you to do it right next to me or right across the street from my home.
We need affordable housing, but where are we going to put it?
Right. So you see cities that, like Oakland, that has a lot of former warehouse, industrial distribution land that is no longer that type of use.
It's perfect.
And it's a great area where you can go ahead and build, lots of units.
Mm-hmm.
But let's face it, if you go to any high-end community in this Bay Area and you want to propose building an apartment building, most everyone is going to object.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really creating supply has become very, very difficult in the Bay Area. Whereas you go to a place like Seattle and the rents are about 50 to 60% of what they are here.
Yeah.
Because they create supply.
When you fly over the Bay Area, there's so much land that could be developed in the Bay Area. I think the biggest problem is the infrastructure of our highway, freeway system and transportation system. Just inadequate growth potential that we could realize in this area.
It's a great point, and that's one of the reasons why developing infill in our urban communities makes it. We're beginning to see more and more of that all across the United States.
You got to have good transportation.
Live work unit. Yeah, that sounds great.
Mark, before we cut out for the day,
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the fund, how people can invest.
So we make privately funded loans using private capital from private individuals like you out there listening to this show. In fact, someone came into our office this week at banking at Chase, bank right next door to us, and said, I've been walking by your building for all these years now, and I've got a bunch of CDs that are maturing, and I wanted to find out more about that 7.5% you've got posted in your window there. And so 7.5% is the trailing 12-month distributed yield that the Pacific Private Money Fund has been providing for its investors. The Pacific Private Money Fund is approximately 43 million in size today, and it's a 5-year-old fund that invests only in real estate-backed loans. So we use that fund and other private individual capital to make our real estate loans. And so the fund is a great tool for passive investors or those who really have never invested in an individual note. And in fact, that really is most of investors out there. Most investors have not invested in an individual note. And so the fund exists to provide that opportunity. And so the only requirement is that you be an accredited investor. That's a certain net worth requirement that we can go over with you when you contact us. But we've got over 200 investors in the fund. The average investor is in there for about $250,000, and they are enjoying a 7.5% distributed yield. And that's created from the notes that we put in the fund. The average note rate in the fund is about 9%. So minus the fees to operate the fund, the audit, the tax returns, et cetera, that we provide, we produce a yield of about 7.5%, which based on the types of loans, investment opportunities we have out there and stock market gyrations, you should check it out. Check us out, pacificprivatemoney.com or 415-883-2150 for more information and a prospectus.
Very good. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. John,
Absolutely.
it was a pleasure
Thank
talking
you.
about live work units.
Thank you.
Thoughts for the day. Some people wait their entire life for their ship to come in, not realizing they're standing in an airport. And Dear Abby said, the best index of a person's character is how he treats people who can't do him any good and how he treats people who can't fight back. I thought that's true. Tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. Well, wishing you the best of investing. So long. Perfect.
Right on the money.
You're right, that does go by
It
quick.
goes by.
Yeah.
You think that you have all this time to like expand and
Right.
compare and contrast, and it just before you know it, you.
How many years have you guys been doing the
Since
show?
August 14th, 2010.
Really?
Over 8 years.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That
We,
is-
we both had a little more hair back then.
We try not to, you know, it's obviously it's not a polished, as polished as some stuff that you can find out there on the
Wow.
radio. It's like but it's, you know, it's a
But it's
mixture
fun.
of a
You guys-
podcast and a radio show,
Sure.
and we find the
Well, it's fun to
stickiness.
listen to.
The stickiness of the show
tell you
is
that.
that it's not too polished. It's not just
Yeah.
one guy droning on. It's a bunch of guys, you know, chewing the fat.
Yeah, that's what we like to. That's our kind of our tagline. A bunch of guys sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking business.
Right.
And in fact, we Arbitron did an analysis for us some years back when they were doing that. And yeah, just to give you a hint, the average listener stays on a regular show and just listening in the car and then channel surfing. They listen for about 7 to 8 minutes.
Okay.
Our show, the average listener stayed on for half an hour.
That's good.
Yeah, so I figured, you know, I think, you know, partly it's the trivia questions, partly
Yeah.
it's the kind of fun stuff we're doing.
So Simon says hello.
Oh yeah, tell Simon I said hello.
I will. He's a father now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Simon works for Mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
His son Otto
That's cute.
is about. Otto is a little over what? He's a year, 15 months, 16 months old, maybe.
Wow.
A year and a half, something like that.
It goes fast.
So it does go fast. Yeah. So anyway,
Thanks again for coming all the
pleasure.
way
Hey,
over.
really good to see you,
And so
Edward.
this will good to see you too, John. So this will air this Saturday.
Okay.
Actually, it's going to air Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
Saturday at noon on 1220 the dial, and then Sunday at 7 a.m. On 2 stations, KTRB 860 The Answer.
For those old folks who can't sleep in anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
That might be me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. I'll look forward to listening to
All
you,
right.
gentlemen.
Good.
Good to see you.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks,
All right.
man.
See
Take
you.
care. Don't feel there?
Come back in for your meeting.
Yeah. We're still recording here because I got 10 minutes to go before I hit the 56 mark.
Oh no.
Yeah. So don't swear.
All right,
Okay.
you ready to record?
Yeah.
Oh.
I know. I mean, listen. I figured John's a good guy to know, you know, whether or not he'll ever call us for a loan.
Yeah.
He's just a good guy to know. He's been around a long time. You know, and again, he manages $600 million in Oakland and then Seattle, whatever.
Is it mostly live work?
I thought it was mostly live work, but apparently they have a lot of apartments too.
Hmm.
It sounded like it was mostly apartments.
Yeah, that surprised me because I knew him for more of the live work.
I love learning about niches like that. I just I didn't realize that live work was such an opportunity.
Yes.
For investing.
For investing
Yeah, it makes
and
sense.
owning it. He basically said that you can buy and repurpose an old warehouse building, even though you got to go through all the upgrades and the code upgrades. You got to deal with city planners that would rather you didn't, because they would rather you just tear it down and build new.
But it's still cheaper because
It's still cheaper. You're still a better return on your overall
you're not
investment.
going total ground up. Plus, some of the units, like the one over in Oakland, one of the units was 4,000 square feet for a live work unit.
So that's fabulous.
That's big. I mean, you basically have 4 or 5 guys living in there, and they have their own little separate unit.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe they had 600 square feet each. Never see each other, you know.
Wasn't that where the fire
ghost ship?
battle lived?
Yeah,
ghost ship was a live work.
It was a
Yeah.
live work, and had nothing to do with him. But
Right.
we were talking on the air about how, you know, the landlord can't always police what's going
Sure.
on.
Yeah.
And even when you go in there and say, okay, you can't do this, they don't say, well, we're not going to let you in to take a look. And
Right,
then
just
how do
like
you get
any
in the
other
unit?
tenant.
Yeah, exactly.
Is Oakland an opportunity zone? Is there opportunity zones?
There are opportunity zones
In
in
Oakland.
Oakland. There are some neighborhoods in West Oakland
Hmm.
that are part of the opportunity zone map.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it's. Are we done?
Well, I've got another 8 minutes to go.
Oh, 8 minutes. Okay.
All right.
And where does that get posted again?
Well, I'm trying to get this to where CMCM on TV,
Yeah.
where they can figure out that Marcus turned me on to someone named Pam who never called me back, because I'm trying to get them to figure out how to do it in HD or stereo or something. Yeah, and they're trying to figure out a way to do it. So as long as I can send them a 56-minute file, theoretically they should be able to do it.
If the ending is a little bit not something worth watching.
Hello. Sorry if this is boring to you, listen, audience out there, but sometimes it is what it is. You just got to live with it.
Let's do a hoedown.
And they'll just go ahead and just turn off their one, right?
That's right. Watch me check my email.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How was Hawaii?
It's awesome. So when it was raining cats and dogs here,
Oh,
there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and it was 85 degrees. And something I learned is that fashions nowadays are such that probably a third of the women wearing bikinis are wearing the kind that have like virtually no cover on the behind.
Really?
Yeah. It's
even there?
yeah.
Was there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Lots
For the
of
Europeans?
Not at the Grand Wailea.
If the wet prize, it's like
Wow, that does surprise me because
butt cheeks galore.
yeah.
Yeah, it's walk around even in the lobby. I was just like, oh my God.
Really?
You're supposed to put like a sarong or a wrapper on, but yeah, that's the way the style is going. If they're not actually thongs, it's just that they're
so
cut less and less to
Gotcha.
where they might as well be a thong.
Wow.
Gotcha.
It's interesting. Yeah. So,
well. So it's so
that's
funny.
the style now. So
I thought I
that's
was going to the Four Seasons because I'm going there tomorrow.
You're not going to the Four Seasons?
It's the Fairmont, which
it's down the street from
it's
the Four Seasons. Well, that's not.
I hope it's not too shabby. I can't imagine.
The beach in front of the Fairmont, I think, is really nice.
Isn't
All those
okay.
beaches down there are fabulous. They're just the water is great. There's turtles. It's not the waves are small-ish.
Well, I got to do that because I mean
Yeah.
look at it. You can't see.
Yeah.
Remember all that?
Yeah.
MSM and
Oh,
glucosamine
right.
and all that. I mean, this is still here, but this is nothing compared to what it was.
Wow.
So you leave tomorrow for Hawaii?
Yeah, from the 11th to the 16th.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So but I couldn't believe it. I don't know how I made the mistake of thinking it was a Four Seasons. I mean, you had to say, Edward, here's the voucher. You understand we're not saying it's the Four Seasons. I go, where are we staying? There's the Fairmont. I go, I don't know.
Good thing you knew before you arrived.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
I'll bring the
Fairmont's
fluff.
nice though.
I gotta think it's nice. I like Four
It's anything
Seasons.
like the Fairmont.
Well, we're going to Four Seasons at the end of May because Sarah graduates, and we decided because it used to be called
It's
the
the Keelani,
Iolani,
right? The Fairmont there's the Keelani.
Keelani, yeah.
Keelani.
That one.
So
Is that nice? Is that nice?
it's right on the Wailea Beach.
Yeah, it's on because I saw the on the same street I think as the Grand Wailea.
It is. So
Okay, that's why I got
it's
confused.
it's the second one down from Four Seasons, so it's very, very close.
Okay.
And just look at the aerial view of that again. I love Maui.
Yeah.
I could go there every 5 minutes.
Did you guys go to typical like Chemos and Longies and all that?
We did, yeah. We went to Chemos. We were up at Kaanapali Beach for half the trip, and then down. We couldn't get in because it was so close to New Year's. I couldn't get into like Ruth's Chris, or we couldn't get into any restaurants on New Year's Eve.
Oh, wow.
But,
What did you do then?
We just walked around and ended up back at our place at about 11:30.
Oh.
And
Where'd you have dinner though?
we found a place to have dinner. I don't even remember where it was anymore.
When you said you spent half your time there, not you stayed.
We found a place to eat.
Okay.
And I can't remember the name of it, but the wait wasn't that long. And then we walked around the shops at Wailea, which are great.
Yeah.
That's up the street from the hotel. And then
I'm gonna give Eva $10 and say go to it.
yeah,
Go splurge.
yeah.
But the weather was good though.
Weather was great.
Yeah.
Weather was just fabulous.
Okay, that's what I'm
Yeah.
hoping for.
Only a couple of days were windy. But,
See, 'cause I'm not gonna be able to like swim. I can play around the pool like this.
Yeah.
But I
We'll be able to chase turtles. We'll just be able to.
Was the turtles like right up there? Right?
You can see, yeah, almost. Every time we went swimming in the ocean, we saw a turtle.
Really?
Either they're just swimming by close to the shore, or they're feeding off the rocks where we went snorkeling.
Very
No,
small.
Can you
we've
do
never
this?
not seen turtles.
With your glasses to go.
And if there's 2 minutes to go until we hit the 56 mark.
Restroom over.
All right.
So you're, so then next week, are we recording?
Yeah, because I'll be back on the 16th, which is Wednesday. So we'll record
Okay.
on the 17th, which is Patty Cohen here at 4 p.m.
Oh, okay, great.
So you'll be able to make that
What's the date?
17th or my birthday, the 17th.
Oh, man.
I know, recording on my
We're going
birthday.
to sing you happy birthday on the show. Take it away, Patty.
Yeah. By the time it airs, it'll be past my birthday, but that's okay.
Yeah, I should be here for that.
Good.
What was I going to say? And from Coffee Strong said she's
Oh,
been
yeah.
away, but she should be back. And so hopefully we'll get her on maybe late this month or early next month. So
Yeah,
might be
you just tell me.
kind of afraid to be on the show. But
Okay.
I also got a hold of this other one, Vita something. She is the president of, there's like a Coffee Strong, but for Fountain Grove.
Yes. Yeah.
And she said, we can't promote any single
No.
person, blah, 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 but send me what you guys do, and I'll share it with all of the homeowners or
Yeah.
all of the people.
Are we starting to get some requests for
Like Matt's gotten, I think, a few.
few? Is it
Yeah.
just developers or
I don't know if he's gotten
spec people?
spec people or not, but I'll check. He said he's gotten a few, and
We only have
but I think
15
it was
seconds to go
developers.
here. Let's see, and then we're going to be going to the January 28th.
Yeah, I signed up for it as well. So
Oh, I didn't sign up, but you signed
Okay.
up all of us for it?
no, I'll ask Andrea to sign you up as well.
Okay. Is she back on from vacation?
Mhm.
Okay.
Let's see.
All right. We're going to end this now.